Ahh Drang is a legendary solar sidearm first released during the Season of Opulence and reissued for the Season of the Haunted. For as long as it has been around, both the standard and the Baroque Drang have had a cult following of sidearm players. Now that we have a craftable version with phenomenal perks, all the Drang mains have popped up in every activity from Nightfalls to Trials. No matter what activity you're going into, there's probably a Drang roll that's good for it. It's a tricky little gun and it has some weird quirks, but if you learn them, it will serve you well, and I will be covering precisely what those quirks are. This video will cover its stats and perk pool, weapon behavior, obtainability, recommended rolls, and overall performance in both PvE and PvP activities. Hopefully, by the end of this, you'll have just a little more information to work with when making your next build. Let's break this down. At base, Drang has 35 range, 60 stability, 71 handling, 30 reload speed, 18 magazine size, 70 aim assistance, 21 airborne effectiveness, although it's getting increased to 23, 14 zoom, and 80 recoil direction. It is a 300 rounds per minute adaptive frame with a base damage falloff of 17.89 meters. In PvP, it deals 51 crit and 36 body, needing 4 crits to kill all resilience tiers with a time to kill of 0.6 seconds. In PvE, it deals 3771 crit and 2690 body against Carl. Compared to the average legendary energy 300 sidearm, Drang's stat package seems pretty ordinary on the surface. The range, stability, and reload speed stats are average. Handling, magazine size, and airborne effectiveness are higher than average, and aim assistance and recoil direction are below average. But the key here is one stat, zoom. The base zoom of Drang, both Baroque and Standard, is 14. This is the same zoom as hand cannons and higher than every other sidearm in the game, even with rangefinder. This is especially noticeable because, for sidearms, the range stat doesn't affect their damage falloff that much. An increase of 30 range amounts to about 1 meter, and the accuracy cones don't extend much further either. Drang, at base, has a further damage falloff than most sidearms have with max range, and it behaves very differently. We'll get into that part later, but let's get on to the perks. First off, Drang has a unique intrinsic perk. Aside from being an adaptive frame, Drang's intrinsic perk is Together Forever. It states, this weapon has a well-rounded adaptive grip, reliable and sturdy. Kills with this weapon reload Sturm and overflow a bonus damage round into it. The standard Drang was originally released as a pair with the Sturm exotic hand cannon, and their perks work together. Every time you get a kill with Drang, Sturm is overcharged with 1 round that gives it bonus damage. According to Pippin's Destiny data compendium, the overcharged round deals 80% increased damage in PvP and 262% increased damage in PvE. In PvP, this is a nice combo that lets Sturm 2-tap after a Drang kill, although in PvE, it's rather lacking because you lose your special weapon and Sturm overcharge does not stack with Lucky Pants. There's also the origin trait, to excess. It states, final blows with this weapon while your super is full grant a bonus to strength and discipline for a moderate duration. The bonus is 20 points to both those stats and the perk lasts for 12 seconds. For the regular perks, in column 1, Drang gets the standard barrels instead of sidearm sights. This means that while it loses some aim assist, it has more flexibility with stat boosts and can increase the recoil direction. In column 2, there's a nice selection of magazine perks. No ricochet rounds, but accurized rounds is available. In the last 2 columns are some phenomenal options. Column 3 gets Disruption Break, Moving Target, Well-Rounded, Quick Draw, Wellspring, and Eye of the Storm. Column 4 gets Vorpal Weapon, Zen Moment, Incandescent, Turnabout, Rampage, and Swashbuckler. It's a small selection, but these perks are really good for a lot of situations. And considering that this is a craftable weapon, the potential is there to make a few of them with your desired perk combinations. All weapon footage and testing have been done on mouse and keyboard with a field of view setting of 105. I have used Drang a good bit this season. Before making this video, I had about 5,000 PvE kills and 500 PvP kills on it. With this experience, I feel comfortable in saying that Drang is a very strange feeling weapon. I mean that in a neutral sense, by the way, there's both good and bad there. But it's got some quirks, and you should know them for a smoother experience. I'll start with the elephant in the room, the zoom. Compared to regular sidearms, especially if you're used to a sidearm without rangefinder, it's jarring. Even though it's a 2-point difference, it feels like the difference between a hand cannon and a pulse rifle. Alongside the far damage falloff, if you're used to standard sidearms, this thing feels like a telescope. But this also has downsides. At really close ranges, like 10 meters and in, it's a little awkward to keep your shots on target. Although the zoom isn't really the only contributing factor to that. There's also the TTK in PvP. It takes 4 crits to kill, downing a Guardian in 0.6 seconds. This is the fastest base TTK for legendary weapons in the game, and when you get a 4-tap, it feels like you completely destroyed your target. But that TTK may be harder to get than it seems. I don't know if this is an issue for anyone else, but I find it really difficult to hit crits with Drang, especially in PvP. I found 2 parts of this, the muzzle flash and the recoil direction. For whatever reason, the muzzle flash of Drang is really bright. Compared to the Keening, another 300 RPM energy sidearm, Drang's muzzle flash has a brighter color and takes up more of the screen. This obscures the target between shots and makes tracking movement harder. On top of this is the recoil direction. When you're shooting Drang, it's very easy for the target to be blocked by the weapon model. This can make you lose the target or subconsciously aim lower in order to see the target, missing the headshot. This is a problem for a lot of sidearms, although notably, this isn't an issue on 3-shot burst and 450 rapid-fire frames. I bring these observations up because they heavily affect the weapon performance, especially in PvP. A lot of people look at Drang and they see the amazing range and fast TTK and immediately feel drawn to it. But if you have trouble hitting crits, that advantage is gone. I'm not in tune with those quirks that Drang has, and I can't really aim well with it. My other sidearms, like the Last Dance and the Fool's Remedy, don't have those quirks, and they work better for me because of that. SMGs, too, have a similar niche and are much smoother to shoot. Still, if you don't have these issues, if you learn these quirks and whenever you shoot Drang you get those crispy 4-taps, you're holding a weapon with amazing potential. So go out there, master it, and teach those shotgun apes their place. Baroque Drang is a craftable weapon. That means that if you want a specific role, you can craft it, and no need to settle for anything less than perfect. But getting that crafted Drang is the tougher part. The easiest way is with the guaranteed weekly deep sight weapons from the focusing deep sight and opulent deep sight upgrades on the Crown of Sorrow at the helm. This makes your opulent umbral energy use more efficient, but it does mean that it'll take a few weeks to get there. You can also farm Nightmare Containment or just farm opulent keys and pray to RNG for deep sight drops, but that does take a lot more grind. Still, once you unlock the crafting pattern and grind out a few levels, you can get the exact Drang you like. As for any weapon in Destiny 2, every perk has its own use case, so use the roles that work with yours. I will be pointing out the roles I feel are strong in my use cases, but these are merely recommendations. For PvE, Drang is great for ability recharge, add clear, and has some uses in champion-enabled content. For Column 1, I recommend Arrowhead Break for perfect recoil direction, Small Bore for a nice stat bump, or Full Bore for a touch more range that might be helpful. The barrels don't matter much though, so go with whatever you like. For Column 2, go for Flared Magwell, Tactical Mag, and Alloy Magazine. Drang's reload speed is kind of slow, and these are the options that help with that the best. Flared Magwell is what I use, but go with the option that you prefer. For the last 2 columns, there are a lot of good options. In Column 3, go for Disruption Break or Wellspring. The first for tougher enemies like champions, and the second for Ad Clear. In Column 4, you could use Vorpal Weapon, Incandescent, Turnabout, Rampage, and Swashbuckler. Finally, bring it together with a reload speed masterwork. For perk pairings, Disruption Break can be paired with Vorpal Weapon or Turnabout. While Anti-Barrier Sidearm is probably going away next season, it's still a good combo to keep in the vault. It helps take down tougher enemies, and sidearms have pretty high damage output. The more popular pairing is Wellspring with Incandescent, Rampage, or Swashbuckler. Currently, all 3 of these pairings with Wellspring are unique to Drang. Nothing else in the game can roll any of these combos, and with a solar build, Wellspring Incandescent is especially great for clearing ads with high ability uptime. Incandescent is still a good perk even for non-solar builds, and not to mention Rampage and Swashbuckler being available as simple damage boosts. I use Wellspring Incandescent for my Drang, and all the constant Scorch stacks alongside ability recharge mean that in an activity like Nightmare Containment, I can clear a large group in a few seconds and then focus on hitting the tougher enemies without worrying about spam. It's very useful and satisfying. All weapon performance testing has been done with one copy of the appropriate targeting, dexterity, loader, and unflinching mods, and without weapon boosting exotics or class options, such as Ophidian aspects or on your mark. For PvP rolls, the options are a bit more specific. In column 1, go for Arrowhead Break, Corkscrew Rifling, or Small Bore. Arrowhead Break gives perfect recoil direction and a nice handling bump, while Small Bore and Corkscrew Rifling are great stat boosts with range and stability. In column 2, there are accurized rounds, steady rounds, and flared magwell. Each of these give a large stat boost, so use the one that works with your needs. I use accurized rounds, but all of these are nice, and also remember that steady rounds improve airborne effectiveness. In the last two columns, there are some nice options for dueling as well as kill chaining. In column 3, go for Disruption Break, Moving Target, Quick Draw, or Eye of the Storm. Moving Target and Quick Draw are simple options, one for consistency and the other one for handling. Eye of the Storm boosts accuracy and handling as you lose health, and it helps keep your bullets going where you want them when you're being shot at. Disruption Break is also an interesting option. It increases the kinetic damage taken for a target after you break their shield. There's a lot of healing in PvP nowadays, and if you break someone's shield and they immediately heal, you'll have an easy time finishing them with that increased kinetic damage taken. For column 4, go for a Vorpal Weapon, Zen Moment, Rampage, or Swashbuckler. As for Masterwork, range or stability are good, pick the one you need. Vorpal Weapon is a neat perk. If you have the confidence to use it, you can 5-tap any super in the game at tier 10 Resilience with a TTK of 0.8 seconds. It is, however, pretty risky given that you'll be in sidearm range, but it might be fun. Zen Moment reduces recoil when you deal damage. I play on mouse and keyboard, so I cannot say how impactful this is. I didn't notice it, but it's the only neutral perk in this column and it should work well on controller. Rampage and Swashbuckler are the standard damage perks. Rampage is a higher damage increase but doesn't last as long, whereas Swashbuckler is less damage with longer duration. And if you get a melee kill, you can 3-tap with a blazing fast TTK of 0.4 seconds. The roll I use is Small Bore, Accurized Rounds, Moving Target, and Vorpal Weapon with a ranged Masterwork. It's the best consistency roll for me, and being able to take down supers is useful. As for performance, it's pretty great. I've talked before about my issues with accuracy, and while that did affect me a lot, there were still plenty of times where I had a clean fight. It's not just the 4-tap either. A 5-shot kill is 0.8 seconds, and you can do it with 2 crits and 3 bodies. The reliability of Drang in its range is genuinely nice, even if getting crits can be a bit hard. Drang is quite handy overall. While the slow base reload can be a problem, everything else is nice and fast. The handling stat is pretty high, and I was rarely caught without it when I needed it. It draws fast, aims fast, and it kills fast. The high stability is helpful also. While the stat doesn't seem to affect much in terms of reticle bounce, it does mean it comes with some great base flinch reduction. I've missed a lot of shots with Drang, but I haven't ever felt like I missed because of flinch during all these games. When it comes to loadouts, Drang is going to pair well with long-range options. It can be a nice backup with a sniper rifle, provided that you're confident with sniping up close. Aside from sniping, I like using Drang in a double primary loadout. There's the obvious pairing with Sturm, but it also works well with scout rifles and pulse rifles like Dead Man's Tale, the Jade Rabbit, No Time to Explain, the Messenger, or really any long-range option that can be fun. Do keep in mind that sidearms in general are your close-range option in a loadout, and that means you need to be comfortable fighting special weapons with a primary. Although if you keep your range, Drang is great against shotguns. Overall, a nice and reliable option for close-quarter situations. Give it a go, and see if it's the sidearm for you. Well, the Baroque Drang is back, and I can say it certainly made an impact. From clearing waves of ads with a few shots to ripping Guardians apart in the Crucible, it's made its place in a good few loadouts. It's a tricky little sidearm with a few quirks, a uniquely high zoom stat, a blinding muzzle flash, and a lot of visual recoil. It's certainly not unwieldy, but it won't gift you those 4 taps for free either. However, for those who can learn it, it's a reliable close quarters weapon with the fastest base TTK of any legendary weapon, and it's far more than just the pairing to Sturm. With a unique feel and great perks, I feel Drang is a worthy weapon for your energy slot, so go out there and craft one. If you've enjoyed this video, a like would be appreciated, and subscribe if you want more. Feel free to comment below with your own experiences, any other weapons you'd like to use, or any changes you want to suggest for the videos in general. Thank you and take care.